Centre has been open since March 2019. We're in the process of acquiring a charity number within the next few months. This is a humble request for your help in donating for the ongoing running costs of the Masjid. EI also for the Dawah work. We'd like people to donate towards electric, gas bills and basic running costs of the Masjid. We're also trying to buy the building that the Masjid is currently paying for rent. So please kindly donate as much as or as little as you can on a regular basis, as this is a source of ongoing sadaqah jariyah for you and your family, inshallah. The Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu said, charity does not decrease wealth. Muslim. Muhammad Ijab, our brother here who's come all the way from London, from what I gather, when I first started seeing him, quite a lot of him was from Speaker's Corner. I don't know how many of you guys know what Speaker's Corner is in London, but it's a place where you can go and speak and say what you like, basically. And a lot of people go there and say what they have to say. Our brothers in Islam, mashallah, they go there and they make dawah. And I know for a fact that quite a lot of people have actually accepted Islam from the dawah work of the brothers. Because I'm a lot older than you guys, I remember the first speakers like Brother Rahim Green, and he used to make videos called Dawah in the Park. Does anybody remember any of this?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go, alhamdulillah. So the brothers, mashallah, doing a wonderful job making dawah there. There's also on YouTube quite a lot, inshallah. The brother is also a well-known speaker, a public speaker, a prominent debater, and who debates topics such as religion, philosophy. He has taught and instructed humanities, social sciences, courses in varieties of settings, including Sallallahu initiative, where he's recently worked and acts as an academic researcher. He's currently working with Alaihi in the Dawah field. By the way, Alaihi was started off by Brother Rahim Green. So one last point before we start. We would like to thank Brother Safraz from Soprano's Pizza, based somewhere in Seacroft, helping with the food that will be served afterwards. So we ask you to stay and have some refreshments with us, inshallah. I'll hand it over to the brother now, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa natawakkalu alayhi. So inshallah today, because it's not that big of a group, we're going to try and make it as interactive as possible. Obviously I can't see the sisters, but inshallah try and be as proactive learners as possible, because what we're going to try and cover today is we're going to try and cover what is referred to as the go-rap. Now, put your hand up if you've heard that before. What is the go-rap? Okay, so one or two of you have heard it. The go-rap is a system which was devised by Al-Rahmah Green a long time ago, which is, the question is, if you see someone who is a non-Muslim, or even a Muslim, someone who claims to be a Muslim but they're very weak in their faith, or whoever it may be, your colleague, how would you approach them from a dawah perspective? How would you try and introduce Islam to them? So go-rap is a blueprint for how to do that. Okay, it's a blueprint we all use. This is what I use, in Aira, we all use it. It's a very simple blueprint, but it's one which is very, very effective. Okay, so we're going to go through that, inshallah. Go-rap is an acronym, which means that each letter stands for something. So for example, G stands for God, O stands for oneness, R stands for revelation and the prophets. So if you see someone who's a non-Muslim and you want to introduce Islam to them, you go through that process with them. In other words, first of all you find out whether they believe in God or not. If they don't believe in God, you can't just pretend that they are believing in God and just start speaking about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because they won't believe in any prophet. Because if you don't believe in God, how can you believe the one who God sent? So it doesn't make any sense. Say for example they believe in God. So if they believe in God, you need to introduce oneness to them, because they can believe in God like Christians, but they believe in a Trinitarian God, like 3 in 1 and 1 in 3, which is not the correct understanding. So you have to go through that with them. Revelation refers to the Quran in our case, yeah? Because if we got them to the stage where they believe in one God, well, now they need to believe in the Quran. and the Prophet. So now they need to know something about Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu and why he was speaking the truth. So this is a system, very simple system, which we're going to go through, inshallah. And after that, we'll do some common questions that maybe some people will ask. I'll give you my insights of how I've tried it to answer those questions and what are the battle-tested ways of answering the questions. And the best research we have so far in terms of answering those questions. So that's pretty much the schedule today, inshallah. Obviously, the question and answer session, it will be quite open, so you guys can ask me questions relating to Dawah, yeah, which you think may be asked of you or have been asked of you, and so on and so forth. If you want to write this down on your phones, you can, because I don't want you to forget this, because I've got limited time with you guys. So what's the most effective thing I can do is tell you the most important thing you need to know so that you can have an effect on your community here in Leeds. Because if everyone is doing it, if people in Leeds are doing it, people in Manchester are doing it, people in Birmingham are doing it, and so on and so forth, then we can have a transformative effect on the UK. We seriously can. And by the way, let me tell you something which I have found. I have found that when we do dawah to non-Muslims, say for example we don't have a great conversion rate, so for every 100 non-Muslims we speak to, 3% will become Muslim, let's say, or 5%. That conversation we have with non-Muslims, it may not make everyone a non-Muslim, a Muslim from the non-Muslim community, but it has such a powerful effect on the Muslim community. It is probably one of the best things to get someone who is weak in Iman, to put it in a crude term, or to use a crude term, bring them back on their faith. It's one of the best ways, because really and truly a lot of people are born and raised in the West, but they're not convinced of Islam. They might be born to Muslim family, but they're not convinced of it. So they need to go through this the go-rat process. Yeah, I get questions on a daily basis from people who have doubts about the existence of God, and they are Muslims. They consider themselves, if you ask them, they consider themselves Muslims. And so it's very important that everyone has a basic knowledge of how to tackle certain things like atheism and polytheism and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go into Allah with G. You can put this down. If you want to write it down, I'm going to test you guys. I'm going to pick you out, so make sure that you know. Yeah, you especially, because you know the young ones need to be prepared. All right. In terms of proving the existence of God, let me ask the crowd first of all, because I don't want to be speaking too much. Does anyone know of an effective way? If I was an atheist, right? What would you do, or what would you say to me in order to convince me? What would the first thing be that you say to me if you were to try and convince me of the existence of God? Put your hands up, please. Come on. Let's see what Leeds is made out of. Or you putting your hands up, the brother here? No, you're trying to tell me to pick him up. I'm going to pick you up. What would you say? Huh? No, you at the back. Yeah. Don't know yet. Okay. Come back to you. Yes.
Observe the creation.
Okay. What in particular now? So let's make this interactive. Pretend I'm an atheist. What are you going to say to me?
Look at the sun, the stars, the moon.
Okay, let's look at them. What about
Did
them?
it happen by accident?
Yeah. Imagine if I said that to you. What would you say to me?
The human body?
Evolution.
Evolution, so we evolved from apes.
No, that's not the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is that we have a common ancestor with apes.
So we just evolved by accident.
Yeah, blind processes.
So what was before that?
Well, before who?
Before the evolvement of human beings?
The planet was there, you had abiogenesis, you had... by the way, I'm teasing you, yeah? There's some good things that you're saying, but we want to sharpen the tools. We'll come to you in a second. The small man there, yes. What would you say? Well, why did you put your hands up? Huh?
Scratching.
Oh, you were just scratching, okay. Yes. No. This man. I'm trying to go for the youth.
Are you
Well, I'm an atheist. I'm pretending to be an atheist, yeah? I say atheism is not religion, it's a lack of belief. It means I don't believe in God, that's what it means, yeah? Why don't I believe in God? Because there's too much evil in the world. How can there be a God and there's so much suffering and evil? Huh? By the way, this is their strongest argument. Wallahi, it's not the strongest argument, but it's their main argument for the reason why God doesn't exist. The problem, they call it the problem of evil. We'll come to that, inshallah. I need someone here to give me some strong arguments in Leeds. I need to know.
Everything is dependent on something.
Okay, now we're talking. See, okay, what about your God then? He must be dependent as well, isn't it?
No, he's independent.
Oh, so you're saying everything is dependent?
Everything apart from God is dependent.
That's begging the question, which means it's a circular argument. You can't say everything. You have to. You're on the right tracks. I like it. This guy's trying his hardest. We'll try a couple of guys. Yeah, go on.
All created things must have a creator.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Every created thing must have a creator. So, what about your God? Is he created as well?
He isn't created.
How do you know? How can you prove that?
If you can, that's why we call it faith.
Oh, you see. So I don't believe in faith. I'm an atheist.
What is your faith?
What? The lack of faith.
Faith is like
See, I like this guy's come in. Yeah? Okay.
There's two arguments. You can use the creationist argument,
Go on.
the whole watchmaker,
Okay.
the decision of the universe and the decision of human and so on and so forth. Or you can go down the route of what's your purpose on earth.
Okay, both are good, right? The William Paley argument, the watchmaker argument, is what you call the teleological argument. I'll tell you what that is in a second. Okay, guys. Let me tell you something that will work on 8 out of 10 of people that you will meet. Yeah? And listen to the wording very carefully, because I'm going to test you on it. Especially you, right? You say, do you agree that everything that began to exist has a cause? So, I'm the Muslim now. I'm speaking to the atheist. This is the question. The first question is, do you agree that everything that begins to exist has a cause? Someone can try and be the atheist here and give me some counter-argument.
No.
Okay, please, go ahead. Give me an example of something that began to exist and doesn't have a cause.
Your argument that everything has a cause is based on a principle which I don't agree with. So I came into existence. That doesn't necessarily mean that I was sent with a cause to exist.
No problem, but you began to exist.
Yeah, I exist.
And you have a cause, which are your parents.
Yeah.
So if your parents weren't there, you couldn't be there.
Yeah.
And if your grandparents weren't there, then your parents could not be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if your great-grandparents were not there, then you couldn't be there.
Are you going down the evolutionary route?
No, just generally, like, from a lineage perspective, yeah?
Yeah.
So, the cause for your parents are your grandparents. The cause for your grandparents are your great-grandparents, right? Everything that... Have you ever seen something pop into existence? Like a tree just come out from nowhere? Have you seen this before? I haven't seen that. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. Now, if you get them to agree to this, I'm telling you, you're 50% there. Then you say to them, the universe began to exist. They usually will agree with this, especially if they believe in Big Bang cosmology. Because they'll say, yeah, there was a Big Bang of the universe, no problem. Then you say, okay, the universe had a cause. So let's say this one more time. What's the first step? Everything that began to exist has a what? Has a cause. Then the second step is what? The universe began to exist, yeah. Therefore the universe has a cause, yeah? Alright, perfect. So what is the nature of this cause? If you get them, by the way, the intellectual atheists will never agree to premise 1 and 2. They'll try and disturb it. But the lay atheist will almost always agree with that. If you speak to people on the street, they will always agree with that, yeah? 8 out of 10 of the time, at least. Believe me. You say, okay, is the cause intelligent? Going back to your discussion about the watchmaker, if you saw a watch in desert, you wouldn't say, because you know, like a watch like this, right? This is the argument. A watch like this, it has all the things that, like a desert has sand, it has oil underneath, if you're in maybe Saudi Arabia or something. You have lightning on top, so technically, the watch could come about from the oil splurting outwards, mixing with the sand, the lightning coming. It could happen, technically, right? But no one would believe that if they saw a watch on the desert. If you saw a watch in the desert, you'd say, oh, someone made it and put it on the desert. Someone lost their watch, for example. You wouldn't think, oh, you know, the sand and the oil, and you wouldn't think that like that, would you? So, okay. So you ask them, does the universe have intelligent design? Or is it designed in an intelligent? Yes, okay. So is the cause intelligent? So yeah. Is the cause have power? It must have power, otherwise there'd be no universe, right? And then they'll be given the attributes of the cause, which are the same as the attributes of God, basically. And then you'll sort it out. So let's try this out. Who wants to try this argument? Who wants to try it out? My friend here, the spectacles. I've got spectacles as well now, actually. Go ahead. So, pretend I'm an atheist. What are you going to say to me right now?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm Shihab. What's your name?
What's your name?
I'm Shihab. What's your name?
My name is John.
Well, nice to meet you. How are you today?
Not bad, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I don't have time for this. I'm sorry.
So you're saying you're an atheist? Is that what
Yes.
So why an atheist?
I don't have any reason to believe in God.
Without any reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go down the route of causation.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say, so what caused your existence? So
My mom and dad.
Your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
What caused them?
Grandparents.
The grandparents. Okay, so you agree that in order for something to exist, there has to be a cause.
Say again?
In order for something to exist, there has to be a cause.
Yeah. Do you believe in God?
I do believe in
So what's his cause?
So you see, the cause of God is he.
Okay, pause there. Very good. There was one mistake he made. Who knows what mistake he made? No. The premise has to be clear. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. Don't say everything has a cause. Everything that begins to exist. So if you says what? God, what about God? You're God, yeah? So he didn't begin to exist. You see? So let's start again. Go back to that question.
So
Do you agree that?
do you agree that everything that begins to exist has a cause?
I don't know about that actually. No, I don't agree.
So how can something begin to exist without a cause?
I don't know. I don't know.
How does that?
Okay, good. See, this now you got me on the ropes, yeah? Now, what you should be asking me now, give me an example of something that begins to exist without a cause.
Yeah. So yeah, give me an example of something like this without a cause.
Okay, I agree with your premise. Everything that begins to, okay, fine, no problem.
Example is stable.
No, I agree. I've thought about it now. You're right. Yeah.
So everything that begins to exist
Has a
beginning, has a cause.
has a cause, yeah.
Okay. So do you agree on that?
Yeah, I agree now. Yeah.
Okay. So
But it doesn't have to be God, though. It doesn't have to be God.
well, you see, what faith tells us.
Okay.
God,
Don't play with it. If he says use the word God, he's allergic to the word. An atheist is usually don't like the word God. So no problem. Call it whatever you want to. No, just go for the second. Don't stop. Just continue with it. Go on. Second bit. Did the universe?
So did the universe begin to exist?
Big Bang Theory says that the universe began to exist.
Okay. So you say the Big Bang was the cause of the universe.
Yeah.
So the Big Bang. So how did the Big Bang start?
No one knows.
No one knows.
Right.
What would be a simple explanation to the Big Bang?
We don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know.
So you say we believe. Let's say the Big Bang was the cause
Yeah.
of the universe.
Yeah.
We believe God caused.
No. Don't skip. Don't skip.
If you be, so
First, everything that begins to exist has a cause. Good. Yeah. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause.
okay.
Don't use the word God. With an atheist, okay, one piece of advice. If you use the word God too easily, they'll run away. Because they don't want to believe in God. They want to just continue. You know what atheists,
Yeah.
some of them just want to enjoy themselves. They want to go to a club. If you say God, they say, oh, clubbing. No, khalas. You've ruined it for them, okay? So, don't use the word God. Now, if the universe has a cause, what kind of cause is it? So, bring the attributes of God: intelligence, power, seeing, hearing, whatever you want. Yeah. Go on.
So if the universe has a beginning, which you agree with, what is the cause of the Big Bang?
We don't know.
So do you think there should be like some form of intelligence or some form of
Doesn't have to be.
design or something?
Well, the universe is designed. Yeah.
So who designed the universe? Or what designed the universe?
Keep going with the attributes.
Okay, so in order for
Power.
it to be designed, for example, a building, for you can design you need an architect.
That's right.
So what's the architect? So what's the architect of the universe or the Big Bang?
Call it whatever you want. It could be another universe.
So the universe.
It could be so many universes. Universe, then before that's another universe.
So
Now.
what started? So it has to be an initial universe.
Why?
To start with.
Why?
Because how can you keep going back?
Okay, I like it. Very good. Yeah. So you've got it now. You've got the argument. Very good. If someone says there's another universe before it, you can't keep going back because you would never get here. If it took an infinite amount of time, it would be an infinite amount of time to get here. So you need to have something with no beginning to start everything up. Yeah? Alright, very good. We'll try one more person and then we'll move on to oneness. No, let's try the man here. You're trying to look away, are you? Yes, go ahead. So I'm an atheist, pretend, yeah? What's the first thing you want me to, you trying to get me to agree to? Put your hands up if you remember. Do you agree that everything that begins to exist has a cause? Okay, that's the first thing you want me to agree to. If you get me to agree to that, you've nearly won the argument from a logical perspective. Yeah. If I don't agree with that, it's a long. You're gonna have to go somewhere else, or you're gonna have to grapple with the guy. All right, go ahead.
So you believe that everything has a cause?
How do you know what I believe? What are you talking
Okay,
about?
well, I'm asking you a question.
No. Sorry, I will speak to someone else. I'm joking. Start again. Do you believe? Yeah. Make sure you frame it as a question.
Do you believe
Yeah.
that everything has a cause?
Not everything. Everything that
Everything that is
begins to
yeah.
exist.
Do you
Start again. Start again.
Do you believe that everything that begins to exist has a cause?
Yes.
So how we got here and how you are here at this very moment was because something caused this.
Yeah.
before you.
Yeah. You're right.
And then if we extrapolate that backwards,
Yeah.
we can take that back to the creation of the universe.
Yeah. I agree.
And then
The Big Bang. Yeah.
Yeah, the Big Bang. And then if you take that back even further,
Yeah.
you go to the first cause theory.
Yeah.
So do you believe that the first cause of all of this was intelligent? Oh, do you believe that the first cause which caused all of this is intelligent?
Makes sense. But it doesn't have to be God though. By the way, this is they say this. Okay, khalas, don't call it God, call it whatever you want, right? But they always have this, they want to say that, you know? So don't worry, you know. It's fine. Yeah, go on.
So for the purpose of this argument, if we call this first cause entity a creator, would you agree with that?
Okay.
So this creator, which we believe is an intelligent being, has to have certain characteristics.
Okay, you've got it. You've got it, mashallah. That's very good, you see? You see, it's a simple thing. By the way, most atheists will swallow this up and they'll accept it. You know, I promise you, from a logical perspective, you can get atheists away from atheism very easily by using this argument. Most lay atheists would 100% accept it and they'll stop believing in atheism and then they'll be at least agnostic. Believe me, 100%. They'll say, okay, we don't know, maybe there's a creator, maybe there's not. They'll start playing that game, which I'm not sure, you know? But this is, I think a lot of you have gotten it, yeah? So let's move on to the next bit. Very good, well done. What's your name? Luqman, mashallah, very nice. Okay. Nu'man, mashallah. Now, so once you've gotten that, hopefully you've made them understand there's a God exists, it must exist, and so on. We go to the part of oneness. Because if we say there's a power of the universe, an ultimate power, can there be two ultimate powers? Because they'll say, okay, because a lot of them will say, okay, I believe in God, but why does there have to be one God? Why can't it be two or three gods, right? Now, for the sake of argument, if you have one ultimate will, which means one ultimate creator that allows everything to happen, and then he created this bottle, and that's everything that's in existence. One bottle, yeah? Say you have two ultimate wills, for the sake of argument. Say if will A wants this bottle to go here on the right, and will B wants this bottle to go on the left. Where is this bottle going to go? If they're equally powerful. It might just stay where it is, right? Now, if it goes to the right, what does that indicate? That will A is more powerful. If it goes to the left, what does that indicate? That will B is more powerful. If it ceases to exist, what does that indicate? That neither of them have power. Now, if they both are trying to control this bottle and it stays in the same place, then really, this bottle cannot really exist in the will of anything. Because if they both have to compromise, you know what compromise is? You know, with your wife, you say, okay, we'll come to a compromise. As for me, no, I say, no, my thing go like this. I'm the boss, you know. But as for this brother here, he always has to compromise. I want to do it. That's what we say. And then the reality is the opposite, isn't it? So, if I have to compromise, it shows that there's a degree of weakness. If someone has to compromise, it shows that they are weak to some extent. If you are completely in control of something, compromise is totally unnecessary. Therefore, it's not possible that you have a bottle here and then you have two all-powerful gods having democratic discussion. Okay, you move it to the left one day and I'll move it to the right. What's this? Yeah? They're not all powerful then. Yeah? They're not all powerful. So, there's only one thing that must happen, which is that there must be all one powerful agency. There can only be one. Because if there's more than one, then, as the Quran said, لَفَسَدَتَا, the heavens and the earth would be destroyed. Because there cannot be more than one will. Imagine, for example, if you make a car, and you put two steering wheels, and you have two drivers, and they don't know what the other person is doing, or they have their own will, you say drive, the car's going to be going all kinds of directions, right? Because there is no one unified will. The fact that order exists indicates that there's a unified one will. Does that make sense? If there was more than one, then there would be chaos, or there would be no existence in the first place. There would be no existence in the first place. Okay. So how would you communicate this? Let's try the brother that he's trying to put his head down. Whoever puts the head down, I'm going to choose them. So, no. Yeah. So now pretend, yes. What's your name? Safe. Yeah. Okay. Say for example, I'm an atheist. You've got me to agree that there might be a creator, like Brother Rahman. Who else to agree? Yeah. Now, if I say, how do you know there's not more than one God?
Because like say for example Christians, they believe in the same God as Muslims as well.
No. That wasn't my question. Yeah. My question was, how do you know that God has to be one? And how do you know it's not 2, 3, 500 million gods? Why does it have to be one?
I don't know.
Okay, who knows? How would you answer this? Yes. Actually, let's end. Yeah.
You can say that one policy of God is greatest.
Yeah.
And if there are two people, two gods, then that policy doesn't make sense because only one could be the greatest.
Yes. Okay, that's a very good way of putting it. But it's lacking a logical dimension. But you're right. If you say if there's an ultimate power, the existence of two ultimate powers is a contradiction. Because why? If there's an ultimate power, by definition, it means you're greater than all of the other things in existence. That's a good answer if you put it in that way. Yeah, you're nearly there. But there's an easier way of putting it. If there was more than one ultimate will, there would be no order in the universe. This is your answer. Yes? If there was more than one ultimate will, there would be and there could be no order in the universe. This is your answer. So let's try with the man in the blue t-shirt. What's your name? Aqib. Atif. Okay. Go ahead. So if I say to you, how do you know there's not more than one God?
Basically faith.
There couldn't be any order in the universe. Order. Do you know what? When we say order, what we mean? Okay. Order means things are in a specific way. Okay? They're in a structured way rather than an unstructured way. The fact that there is order in the universe indicates that there's a singular will. There's only one will. Because if there was two wills, whose will prevail? Will the bottle go left or will the bottle go right? There will be no tug of war before. Yeah. Some people on this side, some people. The rope doesn't go anywhere. Unless there's one stronger party, in which case the rope will go to their side. And if we said there is a stronger party, then that's it. That's one. That's the existence of one. So you say, order, the existence of order indicates there's only one will. One ultimate will. Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, tell me so I can clean up for you.
What if they're Christian and they believe in the Trinity and they say that God has different forms, He's one but has different forms?
So if they're Christians and they say that, no, it's very easy. I mean, wallahi, the Christian thing is the easiest thing. You say is Jesus God. This is, I know wallahi, it sounds so basic thing. Just do it like this. Just say, is Jesus God? So yeah. Is the Father God? Yeah. Is the Holy Spirit God? Yeah. So how many gods are there? They'll say what? They'll say one. So just, I'll say, what kind of one is this? No, just do that, right? On a basic level, it makes no sense, and they know it. They know this on a basic level, yeah.
What about like Hinduism? They say that they believe in one God, but they have these. If you would say that, do you believe in one God? They would say yes, we do.
A lot of them wouldn't. A lot of them would. It depends on what kind of Hinduism they're following.
All right.
Some of them, if they're pantheist, they'll say God is everywhere, and which means that God is in me, is in you, is in the monkey, and is in the snake. Yeah. We say, look. We say, if God is in me and is in you, is in the monkey and the snake, then if I kill the snake, does a part of God die? I mean, if God is in the universe and the universe had a beginning, does that mean part of God had a beginning? That's a way of dealing with that, right? But we'll move on because I will come back to it if anyone needs any additional help. We've talked about God, we've talked about the oneness of God. The next part is revelation. In terms of the Quran now, how would you guys go about proving that the Quran is truly from Allah? Now, so if someone said, okay, I believe in one God, no problem. And there's a lot of people in society, by the way, that believe in one God. You don't even need to do dawah for them for that. They say, but how do I know the Quran is actually from God? So what would be, my friend here, what would be your method of trying to get them to believe that?
I would say it is proven by the history, and it is written in the Quran.
Okay, so you're saying it's preserved.
Yeah, preserved.
Yeah, preserved, very good. So that's good. So you start off by saying, well, the Quran is preserved. We don't have people, the Ummah fights each other on many issues, but one of the issues is not what is the Quran. The Christians are fighting each other on the question of what is the Bible. Yes. So we don't have an issue, we don't have a controversy surrounding this matter of what is the Quran. Yeah. So there is a preservation of the Quran. If you get any manuscript from the time of Uthman or the Prophet's friend Uthman, you'll see that it's the same manuscript as we have now. Whereas the manuscripts we have of the Bible are completely different. They don't admit this to you, by the way. A true academic Christian will say, yeah, it's true. It's not been preserved. Yeah. So we say, number one, the Quran has been preserved. Okay. Number two, the Quran doesn't have any contradictions. Yeah. And obviously, for you to make that claim, if they come back and try and present a supposed contradiction, you have to have some knowledge of the Quran. But the claim is at least that if this book was from other than God, there would be many contradictions. This claim is not even made in the Bible, by the way. It's quite interesting. I mean, why does the Bible not say if this book was from other than God, then you would have found many contradictions? There's no falsification for the Bible, whereas there's a mechanism of falsification for the Quran. That's number 2. Number 3, and this is what I want you guys to think about, right? There are predictions in the Quran. Now we give the examples of, for example, the Romans and the Persians having a war, and the Quran says غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَدْنَى الْأَرْضِ وَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ غَلَبِهِمْ سَيَغْلِبُونَ. That the Romans had been defeated in a nearby low land, and that they would be victorious after that in 3 to 9 years. فِي بِضْعِ سِنِينَ, in 3 to 9 years. For example, and the Romans did beat the Persians. That's one thing. The Quran says that the Muslims will overtake the Arabian Peninsula. Which, by the way, imagine if it didn't work out like that and they lost the war. How would you go about fixing that? So prophecies, basically, is one way, and there's a book that was written by one of my good friends. It's called The Forbidden Prophecies. By the way, this book is free now. You can get it from the iEra website. It's called The Forbidden Prophecies. So this shows you some of the prophecies of the Quran, Hadith, predictions of the future. Yeah? And this doesn't require a specialist knowledge of language. Someone can understand prophecies without language. You can understand that someone said something will happen in the future. There was a chance it could have been false, and it came out to be true. And if you bring more and more, if you line up more and more prophecies together, that shows that there's a very low chance that the person who's making those predictions could have guessed all of that. And by the way, there are some religions out there which make prophecies which are false. And this is what this author shows, Abu Zakaria, in his book. He shows you all other religions make prophecies which are false, basically. That's what he shows you. But the Quran, you will never be able to find this. The Hadith, you'll never be able to find that. If it's a sahih, authentic Hadith, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tells us something will happen in the future and it never happens. For example, the Prophet says, أَعْدُدْ سِتًّا بَيْنَ يَدَيِ السَّاعَةِ. Count 6 things before the day of judgment. It says, مَوْتِي ثُمَّ فَتْحُ بَيْتِ الْمَقْدِسِ. I will die, and then after that Jerusalem will be conquered. And that's exactly what happened. Umar ibn Khattab, and this is written in Western books, he opened up Jerusalem. Do you know what that means? It's very significant, alright? When you say that he opened up Jerusalem, he conquered Jerusalem without any fighting even. He went in without any fighting and he took over what you would call the crown jewel of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had been around for about 1,500 years before Islam. It's it's one of the world's most powerful empires in history. And one of their crown jewels was Jerusalem. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ predicted that Jerusalem will be overtaken by the Muslims. Not only that, but he said Constantinople, which is present-day Istanbul, will be overtaken by the Muslims. He said the Roman Empire will be taken over by the Muslims, which is exactly what happened. The Roman Empire was defeated by the Muslims. That's well known. 1452, and Ottomans went into Constantinople and so on. It's very well known history. The Persian Empire will be destroyed. This is what the Prophet is telling us. He's telling us Muslims will go to Yemen, they will go to Egypt, they will go to Syria, How did he know? He even told us that the Muslims will go to As-Sind wal-Hind, which is where many of you are from, actually. Where are you from, brother?
India.
There you have it, Allahu Akbar. That was not planned, I tell you. You're from India, yeah?
Well, born in Malaysia.
Half Malaysian?
Born in Malaysia.
Oh, born in Malaysia. Well, you're from India. Let's not ruin the... Yes, believe. So, how can all of these things be true? You know, one person said, Barnaby Rogers, yeah? English writer. He says, and he's honest, he's not even a Muslim. Do you know what he says? He says that the Muslims overtaken the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire, which happened directly after the Prophet's death. He says the fact that they overtook those empires is the same as Eskimos overtaking Russia and America. It's crazy. You would never think of that. It's unbelievable, yeah. So this is something that you can present. You say, what other religion has such precise prophecies? Another thing is, you can talk about the linguistic miracle of the Quran. And even the enemies of Islam at that time, they knew that this is not normal like poetry or something. They knew that. Which is why they continue to say that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a magician. Why would they say he's a magician? Unless they thought there was something extraordinary about the speech. And if the Quran claims that they said that they were magicians, and they did not deny that they said that, that's an additional evidence that they actually said that he was a magician and that this was magic. The Quran was. Why would they call it magic? Of all the things they could call it, how comes they didn't say that it was rubbish? Yani, sorry to say. They were Arabs. They knew this very. How comes this is not even good? That good. You hear all kinds of criticism of the Quran, like for example that it's magic and so on. That's the most common one. But you never hear an ancient Arab saying this is not good use of Arabic. How comes? You know, how comes? That's an interesting question. Another thing is this, and this is something where actually non-Muslims are writing about it now, like Michael Kuipers and others. It's the structural coherence of the Quran. The structural coherence of the Quran. There is an unbelievable knitted togetherness of the Quran. The Quran is connected in a way which each of the surah, the beginning and the end, is connected with each other. And the end of one surah is connected to the beginning of another surah. And this is unbelievable because the Quran was a circumstantial revelation, which means it came down bit by bit. But how comes it came down bit by bit, but everything is connected like that? Let me give you an example. It's 114 chapters of Quran, yeah? Give me two numbers that are next to each other. I feel like doing a magic trick. Go ahead, give me two numbers that are next to each other from 1 to 114.
4 and 5.
4 and 5, Surah An-Nisa and Surah Al-Ma'idah, yeah? Now, if you look at the end of Surah An-Nisa, let's start with the beginning of Surah An-Nisa. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. This is the beginning of Surah An-Nisa. That, O womankind, that Allah created you from one man and one woman, yeah? And fear Allah, so on. End of Surah Al-Imran, which is what? It says, إن الله لا يضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض. That Allah does not let to waste any good deed of any of you, men or women. Yeah, men and women, both of you are from each other. So at the end of Surah Al-Imran, it says that men and women are from each other. And in the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, it says what? That men and women are from each other. That Allah, He created one from the other. Yeah? So it's the same theme. In the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, Allah talks about the mirath, or the inheritance. يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين فإن كن نساء فوق اثنتين فلهن ثلثا ما ترك. Beginning of Surah An-Nisa, verse 10 or 11 or something. End of Surah An-Nisa, He also talks about the inheritance. End of Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the covenant and how you have to be. Because what is a mirath or inheritance? You have to agree to certain terms, conditions, agreements, and so on. Beginning of Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil aqud. Make sure you you who believe, make sure you fulfill your agreements. So it continues like that, and the whole Quran is like this. Yeah? The whole Quran is connected like that. It's unbelievable. You know? And so, if you can take like maybe two other surah numbers, because you might think I've paid him money to tell me that he's Indian and paid him money to give me those two numbers. How about yourself? Give me two other numbers. No, this man. Yeah. 24 Surah Nur, 25 Surah Al-Furqan. You'll see there's so much, Allahu Akbar, about Surah Nur. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Az-Zani wa Az-Zaniyah, the one who committed adultery. And he ends with, and he also talks about the one who talks bad about a woman who commits, who falsely alleges that someone's going to commit zina. And one of the main points in Surah An-Nur is obviously Ayat An-Nur, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the Allah is like the niche, and the leash is it has a light in it, and so on and so forth. In Surah Al-Furqan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a celestial imagery, which means that there's a lot of discussion of the Shams wal Qamar, which is an illuminating imagery, which connects to the Diya, or the enlightening theme of Surah An-Nur. And by the way, really interesting something about Surah Al-Furqan. Every ayah in Surah Al-Furqan ends with an alif. Have you noticed this? Yeah, I noticed these weird things. It's not weird, subhanAllah, it's amazing actually. Every ayah ends with an alif. Ajib, except for one ayah, which is the word sabil. Sabil. And in Surah Al-Ahzab, every ayah ends with an alif, except for the word sabil as well. It's the same thing. And sabil means the way, the right way, yeah. Anyways, that's just something else I found out. I found it interesting. Yeah. So there's lots of things like this. But what I'm showing you is that how can someone, because someone used to come to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and ask him a question, they used to ask you about the crescents, or they used to ask you about Dhul Qarnayn, or Al-Khamr wal-Maysir, about drinking and alcohol and gambling. He has to answer the question straight away. So how can he answer the question and make sure, okay, that I've got to make sure that this is there and that is there. Let me tell you something unbelievable. It's true, by the way. Some people have gone too far with this. But the question of, if you look, for example, at some words in the Quran, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 59, yeah, it says, إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ آدَمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُن فَيَكُونُ. Yeah, that certainly the similitude of Adam is like Jesus. He created him, Adam, from turab, from dust, and he said, be, and he was. If you count the amount of times that the word Adam is mentioned in the Quran, it's 25 times. I've done this myself, by the way. And it's all the qira'at are the same. 25 times Adam, 25 times Isa. Why is it the same? Because Allah, it could be because Allah said that Jesus is like Adam. Because the Christians say Jesus is the son of God because he hasn't got a father, sorry. So they say Adam is the son. If this is the case, Adam should be a bigger son because he doesn't have a mother or a father, right? So Allah is saying that Jesus is like Adam. But to make this solid in their minds, he says, and he also made the word Jesus, Isa, 25 times in the Quran, and Adam 25 times in the Quran. And by the way, if you count the amount of times up until that verse, both of them are 7. How can someone remember that, okay, I'm going to make sure to mention him, and he doesn't have a pen and paper to write anything? And this is just one example. There are many examples like that. It's too delicate. It's too sensitive. There's something about this book that it shows you that everything is deliberative. Everything is intentional. And a lot of it is just quantifiable. Like I've given you examples here which you don't even need to be an Arab or to know Arabic to appreciate. And if you say, well, the Bible has such themes as well, say, no problem, some of the Bible is from the Word of Allah. And even if you say the Bible, I'll say the Bible was not a circumstantial revelation. The Quran is the only book which is a circumstantial revelation, which means people ask questions and then the Prophet would answer. So there was no time to think or write or nothing. Just saying, answering questions. And how can you answer questions and put all of these things together and make it a perfect knitted togetherness and something which is connected in such a way which not even a computer can do, by the way. And if you say, well, the Quran says, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ وَدْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُمْ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Then produce a surah like it. Say, okay, they'll say, well, there's no parameters for that. Then they'll say, there's no, how do you mean? We'll say, okay, make a chapter which is prophetic, which talks about the future, or which has these arrangements, these quantifiable arrangements. You can't do it. And not only that, which people will believe in for 1,400 years. So this is a serious challenge, which has quantifiable measures. So, just to summarize, I've talked about predictions in the Quran, I talked about the language of the Quran, and I talked about the structure of the Quran. These are 3 easy ways of proving to someone that the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Finally, after you've talked about the Quran, the last thing you want to speak to them about is that the Prophet Muhammad himself. So you ask them the question, this man who was known to his community for trustworthiness and for honesty, what are the options? Because the truth is, he's either telling the truth or he's lying. Yeah, Prophet Muhammad is either telling the truth or lying, or he's deluded. But the truth is, because he was such an effective military leader, such an effective, even Michael Hart put him as the most influential person of all time, yeah? You can't really say he was deluded, because how can he produce this Quran? How can he get everyone to agree with him? How can he make these predictions? How can he do all of those things? So, okay, if he was lying, what did he lie for? Let me give you one fact. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he became a prophet when he was 40 years old, up until his death at the age of 63, Sallallahu Alaihi, in that 23-year period, did his life become easier or harder? Much harder. Let me give you one fact that they use against us, which we can use against them. They say, you know, you're aware that the Prophet Muhammad was a military man. They say, of course we're aware of that. That's why you guys are terrorists. I say, okay, no problem. Yeah, you can believe that we're terrorists. That's a different discussion. We're not terrorists. But for the sake of argument. But you know he's a military man, yeah? You say, yeah. How many times did he go to war? 19 times. That's about 20 times. In 10 years. So that's about, on average, when he was in Medina, by the way, because he didn't go to war in Mecca. In Mecca he was being killed, punished and brutalized, persecuted. The people were being killed around him. In Medina, in that 10 years, he went to war 20 times. And did he go and tell other people to go to war and he was sitting there? No. No. He went to war with his own sword himself. 20 times, that's an average of 2 times a year. It's actually 19 times, to be fair, according to Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. So let's say 20 times. That's an average of twice a year. And there was economic deprivation and so on. Why are you doing all of this? And they're giving you so many chances to say, look, I go back to the religion of my forefathers or whatever it is, and just end the fighting. Why would you do that for 20 times? No one else who claimed to be a prophet ever did that, by the way. They use harb, a war, and jihad against us. We say, look, this is one of the greatest proofs of the truthfulness of the Prophet ﷺ. Because why would you, it's literally the best way to see if someone's sincere or not. You're putting your life on the line 20 times. Not once or twice. 20 times. There were many times where he was nearly being killed. He was going to be killed. And the Quran says, Allahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah is going to protect you. If he was killed, then that would have disproven the Quran as well. Because Allah says he's going to protect you from the people. So you imagine, 20 times, subhanAllah. So if he was lying about all of this, why would he put himself in danger like that? And not only himself in danger, but his wives, his family, and so. At that time, if you lost a war, they'll take your wife as a slave. And they'll take your kids as prisoners. So he had to put himself in a situation 20 times where he could have been killed, his wives could have been taken as slaves, and his children could have been taken as prisoners for this message. And you're saying that he's lying. But what greater test of sincerity is there than war itself? You see. So, this concludes the Dawah. To summarize, you prove to them God exists. We've explained how. Yeah? The oneness of God, we've explained how. The revelation of God, we've explained how. But let's quickly summarize the revelation. What are the 3 things I mentioned? Yeah, what kind of miracles? Prophecies, what else? Yeah, predictions and prophecies are the same thing. Language and the lack of contradictions, good. And the structure, and we also talk about preservation. Yeah? These are enough. There is more I could have spoken about, but I don't have the time. Yeah? But these are good, these are enough. Then if someone says, okay, how do we know that the Prophet ﷺ if he wasn't deluded? What would you say to them if they said that? The man with the mustache.
Deluded, probably on stuff like his outstanding character, his honest, gentle, all before the prophecy.
Excellent. So he was known in the community, right? He had, and by the way, of all of the criticisms of Prophet Muhammad, no one says he was a bad character. Yeah, you won't find that. And by the way, there are lots of things in the hadith which are embarrassing to Rasulullah and their Sahaba in many ways. They are. And they're not hidden. Some of them are weak hadith, some of them are fabricated. But we don't find anything saying, oh, you are a bad character. No one says that. Okay, good. How do we know he wasn't lying? This is what the example I gave. Why would he put his life on the line? Once or twice? No, 20 times. With that, inshallah, you conclude the go-rap. The person may become Muslim, may not become Muslim, but you've done your job. At the end of the day, some people will be convinced of your arguments, but there's something blocking it. At the end of the day, there's something called the fitrah in Islam, which is that you're born believing in God, one God, and so on and so forth. Some people, when you just tell them to worship Allah, wallahi, they will convert just by that and tell them that, we believe in Prophet Muhammad and these are the things that he came with. And they don't even need to hear the stuff we just talked about. It's like water for them. They'll just drink it all up, right? But other people find it very difficult. So we're just there to reawaken the fitrah. There's rational ways of doing it, experiential ways of doing that. We can speak to them, you have to be gentle with them, and khuluq is very important, to be nice. You can't be shouting at them. By the way, what we do in Speaker's Corner, that's a special context. We don't do dawah like that to the people in the streets. We speak to them with much more different tone. Speaker's Corner, they come and they want to fight. They want to protect, whatever. So that's a different context. That concludes, inshallah, our go-rap.